Chapter 403, Spirit Grass Appears. Translator, Redditor. Eringhahn stepped out from within the Black Tower and strode into the forest's depths. With every pace he took, he could feel that chaotic intent seeping into him without a sound. Had it not been for his heaven-tier divine sense and his already having a powerful first impression of that chaos intent, he truly might not have noticed it at all. He opened the Eye of Truth, and in that instant he saw black demonic chi everywhere. Threads upon threads rising from the earth, climbing 1,000 meters above the forest canopy before vanishing into nothingness. This demonic chi was exceedingly faint, nowhere near comparable to the demonic chi the Asura demon Emperor had once used to control him. Yet it was far greater in quantity, blanketing the entire core region of the forest. The demonic chi here could not enslave a person's will, but it could cause a living creature's temperament to undergo a violent change. What connection did that black stone have with the Asura demon Emperor? By all logic, the Asura demon Emperor had already been suppressed for several millennia, yet the dark demon forest? In his previous lifetime, he had never even heard of it. That meant it should only have appeared within the past millennium or so the two ought to have no relationship at all. However, that might not be absolute. If the black stone had appeared several millennia ago across the vast lands but had been buried deep beneath the earth, then the demonic chi would never have surfaced. Yet, with shifts in the terrain, it was entirely possible for the black stone to be exposed. That would explain this delay of several millennia. His understanding of this world was still far, far too little. Linghan withdrew the Eye of Truth. Within that black stone lay the Chaos Origin source, something that could repair the Black Tower. He had to obtain it. He advanced for a while longer, and suddenly a wave of scorching heat rushed over him. Immediately after, another wave of biting cold pressed in, so chill it nearly froze his bones. Weng, the thunder battle armor activated at once, forming a barrier around him. Heat and cold intertwined. Found it. He leapt away in haste. Shoo! Shoo! After several bounds, an extraordinary scene unfolded before his eyes. A vacant space of 30-meter radius lay ahead, forming a perfect circle. Half the land burned with fierce heat, every rock baked to a red glow, while the other half was sealed in freezing cold. There was not the slightest trace of any intermediate zone, only two clear, opposing extremes. At the center of this circle, a rock bulged upward, roughly 1/2 meter tall, milky white and spotless, without even a speck of dust. Atop that rock grew a plant of bizarre shape. It stood 2 feet tall. The lower foot was crimson like agate, while the upper foot was crystal clear like ice. It bore only 2 leaves, one at the bottom, crimson like blazing fire, and one at the top, like an ice sculpture, crimson-red chilling ice grass. Linghan recognized it at first glance, and joy surged through him beyond all expectation. He never would have imagined things would go this smoothly, finding the crimson-red chilling ice grass so quickly. He hurried forward, but after only a few steps, a startling heat wave slammed into him, so fierce that even the thunder battle armor could not fully block it. At the same time, a violent dizziness struck him. Poison! He immediately retreated and took out a petal of the golden flower of the stone, a top-grade antidote. In a short while, the dizziness vanished at once. He shifted to the other side, intent to enter through the icy glacial land. Yet after only a few steps, his blood began to freeze, frost traces appearing upon his skin, and an intense nausea welled up within him. Poison again, but this time chilling poison. Linghan took out and swallowed another golden flower of the stone, then retreated to a safe distance. Cold and heat ought to be balanced. Otherwise, they would not have formed such a symmetrical circle, and one side would definitely be stronger. Thus, he could not break through from the blazing flames, and evidently he could not enter from the chilling end either. No wonder this spirit grass could survive for so long. He could not even draw near, let alone harvest it. With the thunder battle armor's defense, he could endure cold and heat at least at the spiritual pedestal tier in strength. But if it were flower blossom tier, there was no way. It was not that the thunder battle armor was lacking, rather his tier was too low, unable to fully unleash the might that such treasured armor ought to possess. Such forces of cold and heat were likely difficult to withstand, even for flower blossom tier warriors, And that was precisely why this stalk of spirit grass had been able to live to this day, Ling Han pondered. If I use the Black Tower's power boost, I can raise my cultivation to the 5th layer of the spiritual pedestal tier. Then, if I activate the Thunder Battle Armor, I should be able to obtain defense at late stage Flower Blossom tier. But is that defense enough? He hesitated because there was only one chance to use the Black Tower's power boost, though it would be better saved for later. For his father's sake, he naturally would not mind using it now. The condition was being able to obtain this stalk of spirit grass. Someone's coming. He was slightly startled, sensing 2 presences rapidly approaching, one of them exceptionally strong. Phew! 2 figures arrived one after the other. The one in front was wreathed in revolving divine light that transformed into sharp swords, terrifying to the extreme, as though it could rip apart heaven and earth. The world's 2nd sword, Yao Hui Yue! Behind him came Tong Jiming, humility written across his face. Yet when his gaze swept over Ling Han, arrogance immediately surfaced, and he barked, "After seeing my master, hurry up and kneel down to pay respects." Ling Han sneered and said, "I don't have your body full of lowly bones kneeling at every turn." Impudence. Tong Jiming glared. This youngster was far too arrogant, possessing only 5th layer spiritual ocean tier cultivation. Wait, this youngster was at most 17 to 18 years old, and already at the 5th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, even in the middle state, that would not be considered weak. Strange. Could the North region actually produce such a gifted person? Jiming. Yao Huiyue reached out to stop him. He looked at Ling Han with interest and said, "I like proud people, but only those who truly have the capacity for arrogance. You're not bad. When I was your age, I was about the same cultivation." "Master is too humble," Tong Jiming hurriedly said. Master was already at the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier at 17 years old, and spent 1 year thereafter to solidify his tier, fighting without meeting a match at the spiritual ocean tier. Yao Huiyue smiled faintly and said to Ling Han, "Youngster, cultivate diligently. I hope that one day you'll qualify to challenge me." "Master!" Tong Jiming cried out, never expecting Yao Huiyue to regard Ling Han so highly. "I have a feeling you might become a great rival in the future," Yao Huiyue said. Tong Jiming was even more shaken. This evaluation was far too high, wasn't it? If that was the case, why not kill Ling Han earlier? "I look forward to your challenge," Yao Huiyue declared, bold to the extreme. This man truly resembled a sword emperor, arrogant, confident, fearing no challenge. Ling Han laughed loudly and said, "Then wait 2 years for me." 2 years? Tong Jiming nearly fainted. 2 years to catch up to Yao Huiyue in tier? That was a dream. "Ha! Interesting! Interesting. Meeting someone even more self-confident than I. However, I don't have much patience. I won't kill you this time, but the next time I see you, I'll definitely take your life." Yao Huiyue laughed boisterously. "Definitely won't disappoint you," Ling Han replied indifferently, not caring in the slightest. Chapter 404, Initial Success on Formations. No longer gave Ling Han a second glance. Truth be told, with Ling Han's current strength, he truly could not stir even a trace of fighting intent in him. One casual sweep of the hand and Ling Han would be slain on the spot. His eyes settled on the crimson-red chilling ice grass, and with long strides he advanced. He chose the land of flames. In that instant, surging waves of fire burst from the ground, jetting straight at him. Yao Huiyue merely brushed his hands as though dusting off his sleeves, and flashes of sword chi shot forth, erasing every tongue of flame. Yet with each step nearer the centre, the blaze grew ever more violent, twisting into a fire snake that coiled about him. "Extinguish!" Yao Huiyue used his fingers as a sword. Shoo! Shoo! 9 streaks of chi burst out together. Ling Han's gaze flared bright. 9 streaks of sword chi. This was the most formidable sword chi he had seen thus far in any person. It was unknown whether this was Yao Huiyue's limit. If he reached 10 streaks of sword chi, then he would qualify to condensed sword ray, stepping into the 2nd level of the sword path. However, the limit of sword chi should be near 30 streaks. If it were him, he definitely would not form sword rays hastily, but instead push the number of sword chi streaks to the utmost limit and only then form the rays. In that way, the power of Sword Ray would be stronger. The might of Nine Sword Chi Streaks was shocking as expected. Though he wielded only fingers as a sword, he suppressed the fire snake completely. However, 3 more fire snakes gushed forth, lunging at Yao Huiyu. Now, even that exceptional talent revealed a cautious expression, both hands sweeping as swordlight instantly shook the heavens. He used the mysterious 3000. Yes, yes, yes! Ling Han watched, comparing it against his own sword technique, and in an instant felt as though he had benefited profoundly. After all, the Heaven's Sword sect had passed down this sword technique, and Yao Huiwei could receive devoted guidance from elites within the sect, while Ling Han could only grope forward on his own. The difference was far too great. There were subtle changes within it. Ling Han praised inwardly as understanding kept dawning on him, one after another, of why and how each nuance came to be. Although Yao Huiyue was a talented swordsman, this land of fire was surely terrifying. Endless flames swept over him, forcing him to draw his sword. Ding! A cold ray of sword light, dazzling heaven and earth. The fire snake was suppressed once more, but the fiercer the suppression, the fiercer the backlash. More fire snakes scuttled out as if they were inextinguishable. Yao Huiyue is very strong, Ling Han said inwardly. This person's tier was only at the first layer of the flower blossom tier, yet his battle prowess was at least 10 stars and easily surpassed 9 stars. Moreover, this obviously could not possibly be Yao Huiyue's full strength. Yao Huiyu continued advancing, yet his pace grew slower and slower, until at last he stopped 2 meters from the crimson-red chilling ice grass. It seemed he was only a few steps from harvesting the spirit medicine, but because of the difference of these few steps, it was so close yet worlds apart. At last, Yao Huiyu could only retreat, having no other choice. Ling Han assessed it. Apparently, only the defense of the peak stage of the flower blossom tier could approach that spirit medicine. Thus, he definitely had to raise his cultivation to the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, and then use the Black Tower's power boost. Then, he would have 70% certainty. It was enough! He took out another petal of golden flower of the stone, tossed it toward Yao Huiyue and said, "The fire and ice are both strangely poisonous. This is golden flower of the stone, it detoxifies." Yao Hui caught it and stuffed it into his mouth without thinking. Tong Jiming was just about to cry out, "Master!" Yet Yao Huiyu had already swallowed it, nodding toward Ling Han in gratitude. Ling Han smiled and turned to leave. His current cultivation was still somewhat weak, and staying here had no meaning. It would be better to first find the heavenly luck stone and return when he had reached the 9th layer of the spiritual ocean tier, which would take roughly 3 months. In the following few days, he roamed everywhere, searching for any trace of the heavenly luck stone, yet without result. Instead, he encountered a flower blossom tier beast and was pursued closely, ultimately diving into the Black Tower to hide. Flower blossom tier opponents were too strong. Even if he had 2 10th tier spirit tools in hand, he was not qualified to fight them. Other people could not remain in this area for long, spending at most 10 days before they had to leave. They had to at least retreat to the 2nd ring, dispelling the chaotic evil thoughts before re-entering the core area. However, Ling Han was unafraid of them. Entering the Black Tower once, he could expel all the violent chaotic thoughts within. Moreover, after repeatedly enduring and toughening his divine sense with the Black Stone, he gained a considerable immunity to such assaults of chaos. In a flash, 1 month had already passed, and more elites entered this area. The news of the Heavenly Luck Stone had already spread. Perhaps spiritual infant tier elites would be enthused, seizing this chance for their own descendants or inheritors. Ling Han's cultivation advanced into the 6th layer of the spiritual ocean tier and reached the late stage, not too far from breaking through to the 7th layer. This was within his expectations, but what made him exult was that he had a breakthrough in formations. He successfully carved 15 formation patterns on a rock. Not only was there not the tiniest bit of error, but there were also no pauses. Perfect! After carving different formation patterns on 7 stone rods, he sprayed them off-handedly, and they fanned out in orderly fashion into 7 positions. Instantly, each formation pattern lit up, drawing the power of heaven and earth in a miraculous manner through the 7 stone rods. A spirit snake was taking shape, yet just as it began, pa! Pa! The 7 stone rods exploded into fragments, and the formation immediately collapsed. It couldn't be helped. These were only ordinary stones. How could they possibly bear the power of heaven and earth drawn by a 4th tier formation? Not to mention 4th tier. Even 2nd tier and 3rd tier were a no-go. They would only be able to bear a formation at the 1st tier. Ling Han carved on rocks, unwilling to waste the purple patterned gold he had bought. 5th tier, rare gold naturally should not be squandered, and fortunately it wasn't 6th tier. Otherwise he might not even be able to buy it, even if he were willing to put up a large amount of 3-star origin crystals. Worldly treasures were extremely rare. He returned inside the Black Tower, beginning to carve upon the purple patterned gold. Small heavenly origin spirit snake formation needs 7 formation eyes. In reality, if I can carve 180 basic 4th tier water type formation eyes, I can set up all 4th tier water type formations. However, formations are truly boundless. If I wanted to set up all formations, how many formation eyes would be needed? The cost of the materials alone would make a heaven tier elite go broke. I only grasped small heavenly origin spirit snake formation. If I obtain more formations in the future, I'll think about the cost of the materials then. Moreover, there might be formation eyes passed down from ancient times, and I only need to refine them to set the formation up. He gathered all his focus and began carving formation patterns on the purple patterned gold. Inside the Black Tower, he did not need to worry about lacking strength and thus being unable to carve formation patterns on 5th tier rare gold. This was a huge advantage, virtually reducing the number of possible errors. Each formation pattern was exceedingly complex. Ling Han was not fast, yet his hands were exceptionally steady without the slightest pause or delay. After 1 hour, the first formation eye was completed. The moment he stopped, he instantly felt as though his brain had been emptied. This was due to expending too much power of the divine sense.